In a world of legends and mysteries where the lines between good and evil blur, there exists a lone young man on a quest for vengeance. His name is Percival, and he witnesses the gruesome death of his grandfather, the man who raised him, at the hands of none other than his own father. Percival is not just any ordinary young man, he is one of the 4 legendary knights who threaten the world with destruction. A boy named Prul is running through an open field when he spots a rock bird in the sky. Since seeing one flying around here is pretty rare, he calls his grandfather, who has clearly never missed an armed day, to help him catch it. The old man doesn't have anything else to use, so he picks up a pitchfork and throws it several stories into the air, hitting the bird so hard that it falls off a cliff. Percival isn't going to let that meat get away so easily. He jumps off the cliff, grabs the bird, and just in time catches himself on a rock, avoiding certain death. I guess you could say he really winged it there. After that, they go back inside, where Grandpa lets Prul prepare the bird while he manages everything else with one hand. Next, they sit down to eat the well-done meat. But in the background, we can see some ominous purple magic on the bird, which is not a good sign. When they're done eating, they go outside for a light sparring match. Grandpa wins as expected, and after a short fight, Prul finally gives up. Grandpa goes to wash the dishes, this time while Percival is still in good spirits. It's all fun and games until the magic meat starts turning the dishes into flying saucers. But he suddenly remembers something very important. His birthday is coming up soon, and he has forgotten all about it. It's a race against time for him as he rushes back to the house to find Percival, who is currently occupied. Let's hope he doesn't bring a flying fork to the birthday celebration. Grandpa takes him to the top of the cliff and shows him the vast expanse beyond this island. He is eager to embark on a journey to explore new places and experience new adventures. But he's content with his life because his grandfather is with him, so he doesn't want to change anything. That's when he notices a red flag. Well, I hope that red flag isn't a literal one, because that would be one heck of a warning sign. One day, Percival falls asleep and wakes up to see a knight arriving on the island. The knight is talking from his flying boat about how his rockbird familiar was shot down earlier, which suggests the person he's looking for must be here. Percival approaches the knight and expresses his amazement at seeing a knight in a flying boat. Percival tells the knight that Vargas is his grandfather and asks how the knight knows him. Percival doesn't feel threatened by the stranger and mentions that the knight says he knew Vargas 16 years ago, coming to visit because he was still a holy knight. Well, it looks like Percival's birthday surprise just arrived in a flying boat. Talk about a grand entrance for a grand celebration. Everything seems fine to Percival, and the knight asks why a friend would come to visit in full war gear or why Grandpa wouldn't talk about such a close friend. Percival tells the knight that Grandpa is making breakfast on the other side of the hill, probably whipping up some medieval avocado toast. Now that the knight has the information he needs, he goes over to talk to Vargas on the other side of the mountain, perhaps for some breakfast tips. Vargas is busy chopping carrots for breakfast when the knight sneaks up behind him. Percival quickly raises his sword to block the attack, but it sends him flying back into his house. The house is mostly still in good shape, considering it survived the Great Dragon Pizza Delivery Incident of '73, so he leaps out and charges at the knight. Their swords clash, but Vargas can't penetrate the knight's defenses. When opportunity arises, the knight uses his power to make Vargas destroy his house, leaving it in ruins. Percival arrives a bit too late and sees his grandfather being attacked, so he yells at the knight to stop. The knight shows no signs of stopping and aims his weapon at Percival, declaring that he is the next to die. Just when Percival is in the line of fire, Grandpa intervenes and prevents the knight from shooting Percival. He instructs the knight to leave while he still can, or he'll be subjected to Grandpa's legendary lecture on the importance of table manners. But Percival refuses to leave his beloved grandpa to die, even if it means enduring more of Grandpa's tales about the good old days. The knight, on the other hand, has no intention of letting either of them leave alive. He continues to engage in combat, rapidly striking Vargas several more times and unleashing a devastating attack on Percival, who starts wondering if he left the stove on back at the house. Percival attempts to fight back with all the strength he has left, but can't inflict much damage with his small arms. He coughs up blood and is punched backward, falling to the ground and looking up at the sky, wondering if it's just a massive pigeon convention up there. As the battle unfolds, Vargas, lying in the snow, asks the knight why he has come to kill him now of all times. The knight explains that a prophecy foretold that the Knights of the Apocalypse would overthrow the Lord King Arthur a few days ago. They don't know much about the Knights of the Apocalypse, so he decided to eliminate Vargas while he was here just in case. Although that was his reason, it's clear that he didn't have to kill Percival in such a brutal manner. As the knight walks away, Percival gets up and apologizes to his grandfather for not being able to protect him. He wants to say something to Percival before he dies, but it's probably another lecture on the merits of proper vegetable chopping technique. So Vargas tells him that the knight's name is Arane, and that he is Percival's father, but the dad jokes have taken an extremely dark turn. Vargas had previously told Percival that his father had died when he was young, but he conveniently forgot to mention that his father was a professional sword-wielding, house-ruining, prophecy fallen warrior. Grandpa decides it's too much backstory to explain right now, so he instructs Percival to go find Irame. If he wants to learn the whole story, he's sorry, but Percival will have to embark on his new journey by himself for the first time. It'll be tough, but Grandpa believes that Percival is strong enough to handle it because he taught him to be resilient even when faced with puns that could kill. Percival wakes up the next morning and finds his grandfather's lifeless body. This devastates him and he buries the body, wondering if he should deliver a eulogy filled with jokes from his favorite pun book. He feels an emptiness inside as his entire world crumbles before him, much like the crumbled ruins of his house. He starts repairing some of the damage done to the house and discovers a box under a table inside. Vargas had prepared new clothes, sewing them for Percival's upcoming travels, along with a note saying, "May your journey be filled with adventure and hopefully fewer epic battles." A few days have passed since the clothes were made and Percival can't help but think, what kind of breakfast will I be making now? A memorial for his grandfather is about to begin its journey. Percival puts on a helmet and adjusts his cape, determined to descend the tall island behind him and find a place where people like him can live. However, after a whole day of climbing, he hasn't made much progress and can't even see beyond the clouds. Finally, he reaches the top of the hill and gets a clear view of the ground below. In his excitement, he loses his grip and falls to the ground. He must have forgotten the How to Safely Descend Tall Islands for Dummies guide back at home. On the ground, he encounters a peculiar creature, which is probably the island's equivalent of a local wildlife enthusiast. Percival gazes at the creature and thinks that he has never seen anything like it on the island. He introduces himself to the creature and explains that he just descended from the tall island behind him, seeking a place where people like him can live. The creature doesn't seem to understand him and tries to leave, probably thinking that Percival is just another tourist who got lost. Percival persists and continues following it, eventually leading him to a street performance group. It seems that the island's equivalent of Google Maps is a bit faulty. Elva, the street performer, performs a trick with a monkey and a disappearing hoop, leaving Percival wondering if monkeys are better at vanishing acts than his dignity after that hillside fall. The last performer is supposed to do Katz's trick, but is reluctant to practice since no one is there to watch him. However, Percival is watching and he is thoroughly impressed by their remarkable performance despite their remote location. It's a bit like discovering a Michelin-star restaurant in the middle of a desert. The other performers are puzzled about where a kid like Percival could have come from and ask how he plans to find the person he's looking for. Percival explains that he is searching for Ironside, the person who killed his grandfather and is his father. This revelation makes them think that he is seeking revenge, but Percival is unsure if he wants to seek vengeance. Right now, he simply wants to confront Ironside and understand why he killed Grandpa and why he has only just appeared. He has many questions, but for now, he mainly wants to confront him. The group doesn't know the name Ironside, but they are heading to a town soon where he might be able to gather more information or at least get a better data plan for his island exploration. Percival is content, and he asks the performers if the tricks they did in their last show were the same as what they do now. He tells them that it was amazing and appeared like magic and wonders if they can teach him how to make his homework disappear. However, Donnie is not enthusiastic about performing small magic tricks to earn money, probably because he's more interested in a career as a stand-up comedian. Katz explains that they are a group of people whose dreams of becoming holy knights were shattered when the term holy knights was used. Ironside had informed Percival that both he and his grandfather were holy knights, a fact Percival now remembers, which only adds to his confusion about his family's obsession with medieval weaponry. When the others first hear this, they are shocked because it means he is the son of a holy knight, which is like finding out you're the descendant of the Round Table's official jester. Suddenly, two townspeople rush up to them and implore them for assistance. A wolf is attacking their village, so they ask Donnie to ride his horse and summon some holy knights. Donnie believes it's unnecessary, thinking they can handle the wolf on their own, forgetting that this is a world where wolves come with their own CGI special effects. In return for their help, the villagers promise to provide food and shelter for the night. However, when Donnie arrives at the scene, he realizes the wolf is too much for them to handle, as he's apparently been watching too many How to Be a Legendary Wolf tutorials on YouTube. In a hurry, he leaves to summon the holy knights. As they run away, Percival exits the cart to confront the wolf since people are still in danger. The wolf is about to attack Percival, but Donnie steps in to stop it, reminding the wolf about the importance of proper animal etiquette. Despite his injuries and being knocked back, this action makes Percival furious. He abandons the bow and decides to use his bare hands to do what he's skilled at, which is more like a medieval MMA cage match than a knightly showdown. He strikes again, hoping that the wolf isn't allergic to his punches. Percival jumps up and strikes the wolf, knocking its consciousness and reflexes out of it. The wolf falls to the ground and everyone begins celebrating their safety, especially the wolf, who is now questioning its career choices. The wolf bears one of those familiar crests on it, and the creature that Percival met earlier observes from a nearby cliff through a magic crystal, probably thinking, I need to find a different line of work. Anita is surprised that Percival managed to defeat one of his familiars and decides to confront him in person during his next visit to the village, possibly to challenge him to a rematch. Upon returning to town, everyone wishes to do something fun with their hero, raising a glass to him, and Percival relishes the taste of the drink, hoping it's not some medieval version of Gatorade as he's had enough battles for one day. In the meantime, Percival starts asking people if they have heard of Irene, not realizing that he's mispronouncing Ironside's name. No one does, which makes Percival very angry. He screams like crazy for Iron Meg to show himself, but Elma tells him it doesn't matter because he's not here to hear him, and he probably left his hearing aid back at the castle. Someone else hears Pearly yelling for Ironside, though, and says he knows that name. The Black Knight comes down from his floating shield and talks about how he only came here to find the kid who killed his familiar, but instead finds that Peril, who was said to be dead, is still living. He also asks if Vargas made it out alive. Unfortunately, Vargas didn't have as much story armor as Percival did, and he died from his wounds because he's a holy knight, which is like saying you're the main character in an action movie, so you're basically immortal. Katz tells this guy that he's a holy knight and asks him to leave poor Sal alone. Katz gets hit in the back, and Holy Knight says he's sorry for hitting him so hard, as if he's trying to save face by blaming it on an accidental collision in a medieval mosh pit. He just wanted to push him away. He only meant to give him a little bump and not hit his head. He asks the knight how he knows about his grandfather and the Ironside. Maybe he was subscribed to the Medieval Grandpa Weekly newsletter. Percival asks the knight why he knows about his grandfather and Iron's family. He then says that he is Pigard, someone who knew both his father and grandfather, if he knows Ironside. Pell tells him he has 5 counts to tell him where he is, which is a medieval version of a countdown clock with significantly less suspenseful music. Meanwhile, Pigard is talking about how much he likes Percival for not being afraid to face a holy knight. As Percival charges forward, Pigard is surprised that he is not armed. However, as Percival makes a kick, he is able to push Pigard back with his heavy armor, proving that sometimes even a little kick can go a long way, especially in plate armor. He is very impressed by the boy's abilities, probably considering enrolling him in the Holy Knight's School of Martial Arts. Pell agrees that if he wins, Pigard will have to tell him where Ironit is, but as he knocks Val down, he sets his own rules, which is a bit like challenging someone to a game of chess, and then saying, actually, let's play Scrabble. If he wins, Pell must go with him and train under him to reach his full potential. He then swings his mace at Pyro, but the latter blocks it and jumps forward to hit Pell again. Pell tells Percival to take the fight seriously and at least use magic or maybe even a good old-fashioned yo-yo. Percival says he doesn't have any magic to use, which surprises Pigard, but makes him want to train Percival even more. The villagers watch helplessly, knowing they can't do anything until the boy screams for Prill to keep fighting. This gives Mike the drive to use his magic power even though Percival had told him he didn't have any. It's like convincing someone they can levitate just by believing hard enough. Then Brachiel is shocked by the sudden appearance of the immense power of Braceful, probably more shocked than a medieval electrician seeing a light bulb for the first time. He says that he never expected that he had this kind of power, but Braceful is standing there stunned, not believing that he could strike Brachiel and push him away, which is essentially a get-off-my-lawn medieval version. Tony calls out to them and tells Braceful not to go easy on your enemy ever. Then Braceful explodes in anger and says to Brachiel, I will defeat you. Now tell me where my father is, but Brachiel says, I won't go easy on you either, as if they're about to have a heated chess match. Then he attacks him with a huge fireball, but Braceful dodges it in time, proving that even in medieval times, dodgeball skills come in handy. Brachiel then praises Braceful's abilities and says that despite being a beginner in magic, he has managed to skillfully control his full power, which probably makes Braceful feel like the Luke Skywalker of the medieval world. This statement embarrasses Braceful, who claims he hasn't done anything significant and just wants to know the whereabouts of his father. Finally, Brachiel uses his magic to destroy all the energy hellos that were around Braceful, probably thinking they were medieval mood rings. After this, Tony runs towards Braceful to try and save him, reminding him that there's no undo button in real-life medieval battles. He expresses his belief that the knight has not used half of his power yet, as if they're playing a video game and the power meter is only at 50%. Brachiel, on the other hand, approaches Braceful and mocks him, calling him a beginner with no magical ability or experience, saying that he has no hope of winning, which is probably the medieval equivalent of trash talk. Then a monster that Braceful encountered earlier appears, carrying a bag of items belonging to Braceful. This surprises Brachiel, as he did not expect this creature's presence. The monster emits a beam of light from a bead and then disappears along with his friends, leaving Brachiel in anger, probably thinking he's in an episode of Medieval Twilight Zone. Meanwhile, Braceful and his friends find themselves on a massive dragon skeleton 30 miles away from the village they were in. Braceful is concerned that the knight might destroy the entire village, so he urges them to return quickly. At this point, the talking fox-like creature advises them to come with him, as he will guide them on the way, probably because medieval GPS wasn't very reliable. However, Braceville is determined to return to the village to find his father. The fox informs them that the knight they encountered is part of his father's group, and that he was looking for them specifically for a fight. Braceville and his friend are surprised that the fox can speak, and it offers to guide them on their journey, because nothing says medieval adventure like a talking fox tour guide. The fox explains that the Black Knight wants to get rid of them. Tony asks, "Who is this Black Knight anyway?" The fox replies, "These Black Knights serve the evil king, and this group of knights is searching for the 4 knights of prophecy." However, Tony says he has never heard of these knights at all, and asks the monster, who probably majored in medieval conspiracy theories. The monster tells him, "I know you don't know anything about them because they don't exist at all, but they will be present soon and start moving, and I have been ordered to find these 4 knights." He then asks Braceville about the appearance of these 4 knights, and the fox says, "These 4 are famine, plague, war, and death. Each one of them will bring a calamity to this world, and Braceville is one of these 4 knights in this place, which is a pretty dramatic way to explain your family tree." All the Black Knights are gathered in the palace of the evil King Arthur, who was talking about them. He mentions that there is an urgent meeting because there is fresh news later. Braceville arrives late to the meeting and greets everyone, then sits down, thinking about Berserful, probably wondering if he left the kettle on for his medieval tea. He says, "What happened today is a stain on my honor. I let him escape so easily, but I must capture him again," as if he misplaced his medieval Netflix password. The meeting continues, and the meeting's leader says the 4 knights are all young, not senior knights. They are disciples of former sacred knights, or as they're known in the medieval world, the knights who inherited their dad's cool sword. Here is some information about these individuals. One of them is Chinese with golden hair and golden magic, because even in medieval times they knew that golden hair meant trouble. The second one has an eye full of evil, which is a real medieval fashion statement. The third one is very mysterious, probably because they're the one who keeps stealing the village's chickens. And the fourth is a young man with green hair resembling wings, which is either a fashion-forward hairstyle or a medieval experiment gone wrong. When Darfold hears this, he hits the table in frustration upon hearing the last description, and it appears he remembers something about Bursiful, probably that he once borrowed Darfold's favorite lance and never returned it. The meeting leader continues saying our enemies also know these specifications, and they are searching for them everywhere. It is in the best interest of our kingdom to find them before our enemies do, because even in medieval times, it's all about who can collect the most trading cards. Then the Red Knight Amelan Syed says if I had known that Berserful was one of these 4 knights, I would have eliminated him immediately, as if he's playing a medieval game of regret your past actions. Breakold approaches him and says, "I did not expect you to miss a target. It seems you've also seen Berserful." Alan responds, "Yes, I have seen him and faced him in battle, and I believe he is one of the 4 knights." Breakold asks, "Why did you leave him alive?" Then Alan replies, "I think it's best for you to take him and raise him under your wing, because nothing says parenting like mentoring your arch nemesis." However, this conversation makes Alan furious, and he attacks Breakold with his sword. Breakold defends himself and says to Alan, "Do you really think this boy will be a threat to King Arthur?" Alan tells him, "It's not your concern. All I ask of you is to carry out your mission to the fullest, as you are one of the royal knights." Breakold responds, "What about your duties as a father? Have you forgotten them?" Alan says this boy is not just a threat to King Arthur, but a threat to the entire world, because in medieval times, family reunions were truly epic battles. Meanwhile, we find Berserful standing with the fox, probably wondering if he should have packed a sandwich for this epic adventure. Berserful says, "So you mean I'm going to destroy the world along with the other 3? The fox responds, "Yes, you will destroy the world," delivering the news like it's a medieval weather forecast. But Berserful replies, "If you're wrong, I won't destroy anything, not even the words of prophecy. All I want is to find my father and his whereabouts." The fox interrupts and says, "I have been ordered to find you and take you with me to the others," as if he's the medieval Uber driver that Berserful never ordered. But Berserful insists, "I will not go with you anywhere. I want to find my father." The fox claims, "I also know your father's location. He and I were friends once, and I truly know where he is in a certain region." Berserful begins to believe what the fox is saying, and he thinks to himself, is Berserful so naive that he believes this lie? He then asks Donnie, "Do you know about this kingdom that the fox mentioned?" Donnie responds, "This kingdom was destroyed 16 years ago in the holy war against the demons, and the king eradicated it entirely, as if he's the medieval version of Google search results." From this, Berserful concludes that the monster is lying to them and trying to deceive them. However, the fox assures them that the kingdom does exist, but cannot be reached through conventional means, and they need to find an alternative way to get there, as if he's trying to sell them medieval plane tickets. Donnie tells him, "We won't believe you," and Berserful says, "All right, we will go with you," like he's accepted an invite to a medieval tea party he's not entirely sure about. He then asks how far this kingdom is from here, and the fox responds that it's 200 miles away. Versifal tells Donnie, "Let's go there," as if 200 miles of walking is a casual stroll in the park. They descend from the dragon's bones, and Versifal suggests a race to see who can hunt better. As they begin the challenge, they encounter a large group of rocks blocking their path. When they inspect it, they find a massive valley, which surprises them, as if the medieval GPS suddenly took them off-roading. While exploring, a group of fairies observes them. They then check on Donnie and discover that he is unable to aim properly. The fox starts mocking Donnie and his abilities, like the medieval version of a sports commentator roasting a player who missed an easy shot. As they converse, they hear a scream, and they find a giantess who is yelling because Donnie's arrow hit her, probably mistaking it for a mosquito bite. She recognizes the wolf and introduces herself as Dolores. Suddenly, the fairies who had seen Versifal earlier approach and complain about someone wearing a helmet, as if they're the fashion police of the medieval world. At this moment, Tony and the wolf understand what the fairies are talking about and realize that this person is most likely Versifal, making them the medieval versions of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. Dolores starts speaking and mentions that this valley used to be beautiful and fertile, but now it has turned into a hellish place with wild animals and aggressive trees, as if it's the medieval version of an ecological disaster. With that, our story worry for the day comes to an end, leaving us with more questions than answers and a few good laughs along the way.